paramilitary groups in Northern Ireland, Dick Kerr. He's a former deputy director of the CIA. Welcome from Washington.
Thank you very much.
Let's try to break this down. I covered the Northern Ireland Good Friday Agreement and the events succeeding it. And now we have this alarming spike. We have these alarming statistics in that report and these very aggressive words from some of the IRA. How much of a threat are they to the peace agreement right now?
I would be very cautious about saying they're a threat to the peace agreement. What they are is a serious threat to the police and to the Army personnel, because they are ruthless, and their primary objective is to kill people and to sow disorder.
But if
there's
that's
no question.
If that's the case, and they're a threat to the police and the Army, aren't they a threat to the whole community and the power-sharing agreement?
No, I don't think so. I think that's overstating the problem. I think that you have to look at what their objectives are, and that is to undermine the agreement, to undermine Sinn Féin, and to cause a difficulty in rather difficult times, economic times, and times when some people don't see much progress from the Good Friday Agreement. But they are small in number. The incidents are while they're large compared to what they've done in the past, I think it has to be put in a reasonable perspective.
So when you say small in number and you track these groups, how big would you say?
One of our difficulties is knowing the precise number. I think it is small. If you were talking 100 people, I think you'd be in the neighborhood maybe. But quite honestly, neither the intelligence people nor the police nor the IMC know the number. So what we do know is there is a core group, and there are some people that they've attracted recently, perhaps a few from the former PIRA group who were dissatisfied with the outcome.
Why now? They've always been dissatisfied with Good Friday. Why this spike now?
I think it's to take an opportunity to embarrass Sinn Féin, to embarrass the government, and to work to undermine the process. But I think the likelihood that they tatter it a little bit on the edges. But I would say to think that it's going to cause a sudden, rather radical change and break down the agreement, I think is not a realistic judgment.
As you are part of this monitoring group and you track these paramilitary units and what they do you think that they will have success? You know, they've made a veiled or not so veiled threat to take the bombing campaign to the mainland, to Britain again. Is that possible?
It's possible, but I think they're going to have a hard time. British intelligence and the police work very aggressively against them. But the difficulty is it's very hard to stop a small group of dedicated people from walking up behind a policeman or someone in the military, or setting off and killing them, setting off or trying to set off a bomb. Unfortunately, they may have more success in the future with some of their large bombs. To date, they have not. So what do you think that they have popular support?
Jerry Kelly was emphatic. He said they do not. Do they? And if they don't, can they last?
It seems to me that some of these organizations, like the Real IRA and the Continuity IRA, are primarily the hangers-on around some old family with strong hatreds of the regime, of the British, and people who are irreconcilable. They're not going to change. I mean, they have a kind of faint resemblance to the jihad. You're not going to convince them to stop it. But the numbers are not that great. I think they live in families. They have some local support, perhaps immediate, but the communities do not support them in any significant way.
Well, on that note, Dick Kerr, thank you very much indeed.
Historic victory in a referendum designed to overcome decades of division, violence, inequity. A referendum designed to put Northern Ireland's affairs in the hands of all its people.
The task now is to manage that change, is to get the mechanisms for change, to deliver on equality, on justice, and all of the other matters which are required if we are to have a peace settlement.
So that was Sinn Féin's Gerry Adams in that report I did 11 years ago. Just for a little bit of perspective, it was the day after the people of Northern Ireland, both Protestant and Catholic, voted yes in a referendum on the Good Friday peace agreement. So have their hopes been fulfilled? We will have another report on that from our Nick Robertson.
So whether or not they come back or bring them in.
He risked his life daily as a police officer in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. But more than 10 years after a peace agreement in the province, he fears his life is in danger again. He wants his identity hidden.
I got a specific threat made towards me at my home that it was going to be taken out, and it wasn't taken seriously by the senior command. It was brushed under the carpet, sharpen up your own security. And that basically was it.
And so, after being a police officer for 16 years, he quit and moved house to avoid attack.
When the Troubles were ongoing, you always, you know, we knew a lot of people had to move home, and now we're more or less back to where we were 10, 15 years ago.
He is not alone. So far this year, one policeman has been killed, others targeted. More than 20, according to police, forced to move to new homes. Victims of violence reminiscent of Northern Ireland's bloody past. It's the 12th Christmas since the Good Friday peace agreement was signed. Protestant unionists wanting to remain part of the UK and Catholic Republican leaders seeking unity with Ireland agreed to share power. In return, paramilitary groups agreed to lay down their weapons. But this year, the season of goodwill is tempered by fear. Earlier this year, 2 British soldiers were killed by a group calling itself the Real IRA. 2 days later, a policeman was shot dead by another dissident group called the Continuity IRA. These groups are made up of hardline Republicans who always oppose the Good Friday Agreement, and they are getting stronger.
They have grown from a small core group back in the late 1990s to a loose confederation of people ranging from 600 to 800 potential activists, and that's a massive increase.
The independent commission that monitors the dissidents says the threat they pose is the most serious yet, and they are extremely active and dangerous.
These people obviously have the capacity to kill soldiers, to kill policemen, to kill ordinary people, to kill anybody who they think is a, quote, legitimate target.
It's very real, but the boys on the ground know it's very, very real.
And the police are being forced to change their tactics. In the relative peace after the Good Friday Agreement, the force demilitarised, retrained for community policing, putting unarmed officers on the streets alone.
That maybe leaves that officer vulnerable to attack, so therefore you might have 2 officers, 3 officers doing it. In the past, you maybe were able to use vehicles that were not armoured in any way. That may be a case that now you may have to change to using armoured vehicles again.
And it's not just policemen they're targeting now, it's their families too. In October, in this quiet Belfast suburban street, a bomb was attached to the car of a policeman's partner. It detonated, injuring her. And the attacks are coming thick and fast. In the week we were in the province, there was a security incident almost every day. It's been that way for close to 2 years.
I think maybe people didn't pay too much attention because nobody had got killed. But once you got the 2 soldiers and the policeman being killed earlier in the year, people began to say, oh my goodness.
More alarming, the hardcore of dissidents is recruiting youngsters not known to the police.
As each incident occurs with new people involved, those people become more confident, become more ambitious, and therefore become more threatening in what they can do in the future. And you could potentially see a return to a wider campaign.
One former policeman is pessimistic.
It's going to get worse, in my opinion. There's not the resource to deal with it.
The dissidents lack the strength to cause the scale of violence that scarred the province for more than 30 years. But there is a growing concern they'll attack mainland Britain, just as the IRA did before.
It's not an entirely easy thing for them to do. It's technically much more challenging than any of the things that they've been doing up until now. But do they want to do it? Yes, of course. And would they do it if they could? I have no doubt about that.
It's a threat that's going to endure long after the decorations come down. Nick Robertson, CNN, Belfast, Northern Ireland.